Hello, everybody. It is Mia Mance, owner of Mia Talks Media and Marketing. I am so excited. We are getting our Women and Wealth Talk underway. It's a little bit early, which I love. So this means that we can get more content to you. We can talk more about your money, more about planning for your retirement. If you've recently lost a job, picked up a side hustle, had a family member diagnosed with illness, we're going to attempt to take on all of those things, including building your credit, working on repairing your credit, if it's buying your first house or looking at investment properties. So again, my name is Mia Mance, and I'm so excited to welcome my first friend ever in the city of Savannah, Jessica Neeley. About 6 years ago, I was so blessed to meet Jessica as she was in her Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Woman of the Year campaign. Jessica, tell everybody who's watching how much money you raised for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
I think we were upwards of 27,000.
Absolutely amazing. And you are known in our community for just how generous of a person you are, but you have an extensive banking background. You worked for Workmen's Credit Union for a very long time, which we'll talk about. You were the co-partner with Women Rock for a very long time here in the city of Savannah that literally was having talks just like we're about to have today to help women when it comes to their personal and their business goals, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Tell everybody more about you.
Okay. So as you said, I have spent I spent 12 years with Workman Circle Credit Union here in Savannah, and I have spent another 6 years in the insurance industry. So career-wise, I've spent about 18 years in the financial sector, and I've really enjoyed it. I love sharing knowledge with people that can empower them to make good financial decisions and reach their goals.
So we're going to hop in. And again, anything that you want to talk to Jessica about, just so you know, please follow her on Facebook. It is at SAV Insurance Maven. My company did come up with her handle because we wanted her to be known as the official lady to go to for insurance. And it's at SAV Insurance Maven on Facebook. So if you're watching us on Facebook right now, you can follow her, send her your questions. You can send anything to me anytime at mia@miatalks.com. And then these comments are live. So as we're talking about things, please hit the comments so we can answer your question. And we're going to attempt to answer every question we can this afternoon. Jessica, let's go into the real of you're a woman who has owned multiple properties. You're a woman who's looked at doing some vacation investing. You've had to go through different job changes, health issues, you name it. Can you talk to me a little bit about the real of some of your financial life?
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband and I bought our first house when I was 25 years old. Then we decided to move across the country to Savannah, and so we've been here the last 16 years. And we lived in Richmond Hill for much of it. We did purchase an investment property. We wanted to start renting homes. So we thought that was a good financial decision. And then my husband had a scary health diagnosis. So we had to put kind of what our life plan was and goals on hold for a minute. Well, we obviously took care of him and made sure that he was okay and walked through that. But then that also forced us to pivot our financial goals and what we were doing. He also suffered a layoff. And then we decided that the investment property that we thought we were going to rent out would actually be our home, and we would downsize. And so he spent a couple of years renovating that home so that we had a great place to live. And so we've walked through some challenges in our lives, in our adult lives, and just learn to kind of pivot and be okay with it. I think that's really important, that we all face challenges. We all walk through different things, major events in our lives. And it's not always what we expect, right? You don't expect scary health things to happen to you when you're relatively young. And so, yeah, so we've been on on a journey, as everybody is and can relate to, and we've adapted.
Well, and I'll tell you, I know two stories personally that really made this talk very important to me. I can think of someone that I've looked up to for a very long time, and when they went through a layoff, it really shifted every area of their life, every retirement plan, kind of how they thought that life would look. And this is a woman, and you have to think that it is harder for women who are in their 60s and 60 plus to just hop back into the job force. I want to be very honest about the realities for women, that why we're talking about having a plan, and part of that is knowing what your credit score is and your long-term plan is. But you don't want to be left out there, and trying to then go from like being being in a stable career to basically having to restart over with maybe no retirement savings, not owning anything. Unfortunately, it's the reality that a lot of people are facing right now. So we want to be very real. But on the other side of it, personally, I had my credit used at a very young age, and I'm thinking I was probably 3 or 4. And so by the time I actually was 18 and wanted to establish credit, I had no idea that this had happened. And I literally had to rebuild credit and deal with issues that someone else put on my name. And this talk personally really matters because it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of just focus and budgeting, and we're just going to take it all on. Let's start with first and foremost, disclaimer: we are not attorneys, we are not certified financial planners. So anything that you hear on this talk, we do ask for your own personal goals, for your own long-term planning, that you talk to a certified financial planner or talk to your own CPA, talk to your own attorney for their advice regarding your personal situation. We do want to put that disclaimer on the table. Let's start with Jessica Neeley, the importance of goals, specifically financial goals for yourself, for your business, for your family as well.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I think so the foundation of all of our financial planning is our goals, and it's our life goals. So what do you aspire to do? Are you wanting to buy a home? Do you want to have children? Do you want to retire at the age of 50? You could have an assortment of goals. Do you want to spend 2 years traveling and not working? So your life goals are where your financial goals are going to come from. And stem from. So I think the biggest thing we need to remember is write down your goals. And I know that everyone says that, but are you doing it? Like, do you have them written down somewhere? Are you looking at them daily to be reminded of what you're working towards? Are you tracking them? How are you holding yourself accountable to, to actually fulfilling your goals? So I think goals are really the foundation that your money talks and your financial planning is going to stem from.
So, and feel free as you're watching to hit the comments with your own financial goals so we can kind of tailor some of the specific things that we're going to attempt to answer to you. So again, hit those comments so we can live answer them live, and again, be able to give you some resources as well. Let's go into a financial plan. I think that we often can go, I know I want to do this, or I'd like to buy this. Let's talk about a strategy and a plan that people can take away from this afternoon and begin to look at how they accomplish those financial things.
Okay, so I think first you need to have a journal. You need to have a spreadsheet. Maybe if you are very analytical and a spreadsheet is more helpful to you, you need to be putting your life goals in there and then tracking them in some manner. And a financial plan is going to hold so many different aspects. So I'm going to glance at my notes here, but savings, first of all, do you have a savings? Do you have an emergency fund? What happens if your tire blows out on the highway this week? Do you have some savings to pay for a replacement tire? Those emergencies happen.
Sorry to cut you off.
No,
If
you're
you
good.
follow the Dave Ramsey School of Logic, it's at least $1,000 in your savings account at any time. Should anything happen, that should be just sitting there, and able to just meet those emergency needs. Keep going.
Absolutely. I think that's really important. So, another portion of your financial planning is going to be growing assets. What assets do you want to accumulate as you walk your financial journey? So, do you want a home? Do you want to be a real estate investor? Do you want to do house hacking? House hacking is really young, especially for young people right now, where they go out and buy
Can
a
you explain that?
duplex.
Yep.
Yeah.
Explain house hacking for me,
So,
please.
they go out and buy a duplex or a triplex. They live in one unit and rent the other unit or other two units, and essentially have their mortgage paid for every month by their tenants instead of them coming out of pocket to pay a mortgage. So that's really popular right now. And a great way to grow your assets, especially as a young person. I think that's an awesome way to fund buying a home, really. Um, Also, looking at growing your income. Are you good where you are in your career? Do you have growth opportunities in your career? Do you work for someone? Do you want to start a business? What does that look like? What is the income potential of that? And then utilizing resources. SCORE is a great resource for starting a business. Also, a lot of people have a side hustle right now. Like, let's be real, people are struggling with layoffs or pay cuts because of COVID-19 that's happening. So they're having to find alternate ways of making income, and so a side hustle is a great way to do that, whether it be selling things that you don't need any longer in your home on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, or getting involved, starting your business now in a small way, as part-time, and then growing with a plan to grow and become full-time. I think that's really important. And then, of course, a financial plan includes retirement planning. So when do you want to retire? How old are you when that happens? And what is your income needs when that happens? Taking into account, of course, cost of living at that time. Um, and then I think another thing that isn't talked about as much, but what are your expenses, and are you evaluating them on an ongoing basis? A lot of us, we live in the set it and forget it society, right? So we have a Netflix subscription and an Amazon Prime and magazines, and we have all these things that just come out of our accounts every month. Are we actually using those services? That is our hard-earned
No.
money. That's our hard-earned money
No,
that
like
we're
maybe
just
20%.
yes. So having a really honest discussion about that, and printing out that bank statement and going, okay, this, and this is coming out every month. Am I really using this? Is this something that I really need right now? Or is it something I can cut and put in my savings account for my emergency fund?
And it's so true. I'm thinking right now, Jess, and anybody that's watching, I feel like we have Netflix, we have Hulu, we have Disney Plus, we like, and it could just keep going on, because like you have your Prime subscription, you don't even think about it, because you're like, wait a minute, oh,
Yes.
every single month, and what you could be doing to repurpose that money. I also think it's really interesting about what you said, Jessica, with the house hacks. I have a girlfriend, and literally she has a triplex, and that triplex is allowing her to live mortgage free. So when you're looking at, okay, what's a way that we can get into property investing? I think Jessica's still there. She should be coming back here momentarily. When you're looking at getting
I
into
am
property
here.
investing, are you there? We just
Uh,
can't see your beautiful face.
hey,
So
hang on here.
with investment property, it's one of those things to understand, that it doesn't have to be the grandest place. It doesn't actually, if you're planning to rent it, most people who already own investment property are going to say, don't go overly fancy, don't put overly fancy fixtures, because you could rent it to somebody who's like having zombie parties every weekend, or you could have, tenants are so different. So when you're looking at your first investment property or multiple investment properties, kind of look at how would this be most marketable, where your renter's going to come from, how much additional income could this bring into your life. And I know obviously locally our market is doing so well when it comes to real estate. So it's with interest rates being so low. Let me check on Jessica here. Are you there, Jessica?
I am here.
Just your camera, we just can't see you.
Yeah, and if I refresh, I'm afraid I'll lose you.
Okay, well, we can certainly, do you want to try to refresh really quickly if everybody can stand by? Do you want to refresh and see?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, go for it. Go ahead and hit your camera. All right, you guys, thank you for hanging out. Thank you very much. Rebecca as well. You think you pay as much in subscriptions as I do to the cable company? That's a great question. In terms of, I still have not canceled cable yet, but that's a great question in terms of saving money. Should you cut cable?
It's a good question. I can speak from personal experience. We did. When we downsized, we cut cable. And I actually, just going over my budget this last week, added up the subscriptions that we currently have, and we're still saving over $150 a month by picking and choosing subscription services to sign up for TV. So that's a great question. And I would say, look at how much internet you're using, and then look at what you're actually watching.
These comments are great. It's saying cancel it, find your freedom. I don't know what to do either. Thank you, Alondia, for the I feel seen. Thank you, Zelania. I know, right? You look and you're like, I didn't even know I had this much going out. Jessica saying she loves SCORE as a mentor. I know Elby from the Culturist Union. She's on here. She was a SCORE winner. I'm so excited that we have local owners and creatives on here, because you're exactly like living, like this is the reality of how do you grow what you're bringing in, right? So let's get into credit.
Okay.
Credit.
It's not a bad word.
It's a great word. I feel like, okay, so there are people who say you should have no debt. And that can be really tricky when you're trying to maneuver credit and build your business or build your own personal wealth. A lot of people obviously are doing the personal protection program right now to protect their employees and protect their companies. What's good debt? What's bad debt? Let's cover as much as we can. And again, oh, wait a minute. Before we get to credit, what do you do for internet if you're not carrying Xfinity, which basically owns our entire?
Yeah, they do. We actually don't have a lot of choices here locally in the Coastal Empire. There are a few though. Great thing to do, get on the Google and ask Google for internet services in your area. I know it varies with the different counties, what you'll have access to, and we are limited. I know CenturyLink is one that is serving some of the areas here. They offer internet. And then also you want to check the speeds that they offer too, because if you're doing live streams or you're working from home now because you can't go to the office, you're going to want to make sure that you have adequate speeds to accommodate those needs.
And as we go into credit score, Zelania, there's another comment coming in from the comments. Negotiate only. Thank you, Kelly. Having internet, which usually ends up in a package of internet with basic cable, which I think should drop you down. Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, to about $60 a month. I want to hit Jessica's conversation as we go into credit, talking about, can we discuss growing your business credit score? I used to have a credit score of 400 and I've grown it to almost 900, which you think, Jessica, that's the top of the top that you can get.
Yeah.
However, as a business owner, I'd like to make my investments using my corporation. And that's a great point to bring up about how you make these moves that you're making. Maybe you want to buy another building or something like that. But the business has no credit. So when it comes into getting lines of credit, and this is a very real thing, as where a lot of local business or business owners are on here. It is not easy to get a line of credit without having that established business credit score. But the business has no credit, so an interest rate that I can personally get at 2% is at 4% if I put it under my business. What are your tips or tricks, Jessica, on growing your business credit? So Jessica, we're going to take on credit basic, and then we're going to get to that question.
Business.
So hang
Okay.
tight. Okay, let's go with basics first. Good credit, bad credit, how much debt to carry, how to build that score, things like that.
Okay, so if you are a young person just starting out, a small store card still is a great way to establish credit.
Unless you're like me when I was 18 and thought I could buy all of Macy's and all of Riches
and not pay back.
When those, like when Riches was still around. Do not do that. Do not still have shoes that you're still paying for. So be serious.
Yes,
keep going.
yes. Or maybe a gas card. Like you fill up your car with gas. So a gas card might be a great option also for establishing credit. Credit is not bad. You need to manage it. I think this is the thing that is the most important and maybe not talked about. Is everybody talks about good credit and bad credit, but you need to manage your credit on an ongoing basis. So you need to be checking the 3 credit bureaus on an annual basis. You can go to annualcreditreport.com. They allow you to pull each of your credit reports with TransUnion, Experian, Equifax once a year for free. You can print out that report and you can go through it with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that the information that's in it is actually accurate, that the cards that you have listed are actual cards that you have, or if you've closed one, that it's closed, that your name reads correctly, that your address information is correct. You want to make sure that you're managing those things and that if there is a mistake that you have it corrected. As far as the percentage, so they say kind of the guideline is you want to stay at 30% or below your max credit limit, right? So as far as debt, so you only want to have about 30% debt out there. And so, keeping those card balances low and kind of watching that, your credit really is going to affect everything you do. So unfortunately now it affects your lending, personal and business. It's going to affect your insurance rates. It's going to affect a car loan, a car financing. It's going to affect getting credit cards. In some cases, it affects you getting a cell phone or signing up for cable. People are checking those scores. So, and they're looking to see that you can be responsible with it and that you're going to pay your bills. That's the bottom line.
So what about when we're hearing all of these like interest-free or 0%, like looking at the market, the housing market, let's talk about how realistic those are for most of us unless we have really perfect credit.
Yeah, so some of them are available. You need to ask. I think asking is super important. Don't just assume ever. Ask a professional if you want to get a car loan or a credit card. Like if you have credit card balances currently and it's a high rate of interest, but you get a 0% offer, it might make sense for you to transfer that balance to that new card so that you can pay it and you're not paying as much interest. You can pay it off quicker. Also, you need to be aware, though, there might be a transfer fee. So you need to remember to read the fine print when you are signing up for credit and you're looking at financing anything. With the mortgages, the biggest piece of advice I would give you if you are financing a home is speak to a local lender. There are a million fly-by-night online lenders now. They are not going to be an advocate for you. You are just a loan number or a file number to them. You are not a human, right? And with goals and things that you're trying to accomplish. Where if you speak with a local lender, they can understand your story. They can understand what you're trying to achieve. They can give you good advice on how to achieve that. What maybe the best loan is for you. ARM loans got a bad rap because they're adjustable rate mortgages several years ago, and that hurt a lot of people. But to somebody who wants to buy a home and flip it, in a year, 2 years, 3 years. An adjustable rate mortgage might not be a terrible thing if that rate is lower than a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Something else too, if you're buying a home and it's going to be your primary home, you don't plan on moving, look at getting a shorter term loan. You don't have to get a 30-year mortgage. You could get a 20-year mortgage or a 15-year mortgage.
I have the 20-year. That was a
Yes.
Jessica advice. So like not this time when interest rates have dropped as low as they have now, but kind of the peak before we made the decision to refinance, cut the term of the loan. And honestly, just looking at, the quicker you can turn everything into an asset, just the better, and doing it while you're young. So I think that that's really great advice. I want to hop over, Jess, and let's take on these questions. Kelly, we're coming to your question after we answer Jessica's business credit conversation. Jessica, what are ways a business owner can grow their business credit?
So you can apply for financing in the name of your business, but I will tell you that most lenders will require a personal guarantee, which means that you personally are backing that financing.
So a
Because
personal guarantee, what's a personal guarantee example that Jessica would need to have ready for her lender?
So a personal guarantee is really your personal signature, you using your personal credit for your business to
To
obtain
back up her
financing.
business.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
basically the
Okay.
guarantor for the loan.
So she could potentially take that. Okay. Okay. And do you suggest, is there kind of an amount or a percentage she should start at to just kind of build up that same score like she did her own personal credit?
I would say talk to a banker. So talk to an actual business banker, somebody who, and maybe somebody who's familiar with your type of business. So you can get some sound advice around that because obviously you don't want to overstretch yourself. You want to make sure that it's useful credit. You're not just obtaining credit that's not going to help your business in some way. I think that's really important also. But talk to a business banker, somebody who actually is familiar with your business, your type of business, the type of credit needs that you would need, and get their advice around that because everyone's situation is different. Their businesses operate in a different way. And so it's really important to get advice specific to your situation.
Thank you. Let's go into credit diversity. Kelly's
Yeah.
been told she doesn't have enough credit diversity. What does that mean, Jessica?
That's a really great question. And actually, this comes up a lot in the mortgage sphere, not having enough line items on your credit report to get financing for a mortgage. So, when I was doing loans, you needed 3 credit lines on your credit report. So, that could be a car note, that could be 3 credit cards. You needed like 3 credit lines, individual credit lines. And to obtain a loan. So those rules may have changed. I have been out of the mortgage industry for about 3 years now. But those are important questions to ask. And that's something you need to ask whoever you call locally to get financing from, because those rules, and they change with the economy too. I would say that, getting financing in 2005 was a lot different than getting financing in 2008 when we had our economic crash. So it's really, and of course, COVID now. So financing rules and regulations change, and they are governed by the federal government. So those things change on an ongoing basis. So you want to make sure you're asking those questions of whoever you're working with. But 3 lines was the rule when I was in the mortgage sphere.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Great questions, y'all. Keep those questions coming in the comments so that we can answer them. I did highlight it in our notes to talk about people phishing your credit. So this has happened to me multiple times. And I actually discovered during the time of COVID-19 that someone was requesting cards or like had cards sent to them, and basically they had fished around for my information and kind of created enough of a profile to submit it, and people were actually going to attempt to like send them these cards. So I had to call the bank and have a lot of discussion which is not always easy, and trying to explain to someone that you didn't apply for this isn't my identity. So as Jessica said, either getting a credit monitoring services. I know a lot of our banks, I know my bank sends me my credit score every single month. I'm having some type of credit monitoring more so now than ever, just to make sure that no one's attempting to fish your credit is really, really important too.
Yeah, and I would add that you can actually freeze your credit. So if you don't want, if you know that you're not going to be applying for credit anytime soon and nobody should be pulling your credit, go freeze your credit. You can freeze it with each of the credit bureaus, and so you have to actually enter a PIN to unfreeze your credit so somebody can pull it, and they can do it for like a temporary period of time. So it could be for 24 or 48 hours, and then that gives you the opportunity to call whomever you're working with and say, hey, go ahead and pull it, it's unfrozen right now. But yeah, it's a great way to protect yourself. And also, don't have every card you have on your Amazon account or your favorite department store that you shop online at. Make sure that you haven't saved all your cards on there. That internet scams. I mean, people are constantly fishing for card numbers, and we've all received breach emails from a company that we have worked with that says that your personal information has been compromised. So just kind of being mindful of those types of kind of safety measures when you're using credit or cards or account information online.
Thank you, Jessica. So again, you guys follow Jessica at SAV Insurance Maven on Facebook. Keep those questions coming. We're going to get into, thank you, Jessica. Some insurance companies are offering free or discounted credit monitoring right now. And to get our monthly report, it's so nice to do. We do want to make that disclaimer again, we are not CPAs, we are not attorneys. So any questions that you have, please talk to your CPA, your financial planner, or your attorney. Jessica, we all know that one day we're going to want to retire. And I'm sure that there are some people watching this afternoon who are not getting paid what they deserve or their worth. And we want to help them understand why advocating for your financial health, why people paying full price for your business, why though you might love someone and they say, please do this for me for free, you totally as a business owner should be charging for your services, because one day something could happen to you. As a person who sits here, the reality of the conversations that happen in my household for my husband, who's an attorney, if something happens to my husband, our business has to go on. If something happens to me, to my voice, to what I do, we still have to go on. So although we would like to think that things today are okay, the reality is, as Jessica mentioned at the beginning, if you're just joining us, her husband went through a health diagnosis. So we've got to talk about how you're setting yourself up for your financial future. There's a book, Jessica, that both of us swear by to help everyone watching this call who goes, I'm so nice, I give things away, I don't recognize how important it is to invest in myself. I don't recognize how every time I give myself away, how I cut into my financial future, my children's financial future, my grandchildren's financial future. Share that book so everyone can go and order it after this call, please.
Overcoming Under-Earning by Barbara Stanny, who is actually the daughter of one of the H&R Block founders. So her personal story is included in that book. It's very inspiring, but it also is very empowering, and it has some great tools and tips on really understanding your value and getting it, and or changing what you're doing, just mixing up what you're doing. Some of us get in the routine of life, and we just put our nose to the grindstone, and we get up every day and we just do the same thing every day. But are you happy with that? Are you reaching the financial goals you want to reach by doing that? So that book was really life-changing for me after reading it. And I know it was for you too.
You undercharging? Are you really being fair with your rate of what your hourly rate is? I mean, I think that these are conversations as women we've got to negotiate, and we've got to have these real talks with ourselves, within our family, with our spouse, with our children, so that they're so centered in how your family, what your budget is, what your financial priorities are. So I'm going to stop talking because let's talk about protecting what you've built. So now people who have 401ks like myself, those haven't looked as pretty recently. What about IRAs? What about life insurance? What about mortgage insurance? Let's talk about protecting what we are working hard for.
Yeah, and our assets. I think that's really important. I would mention too that statistically, women live longer than men do. So that is a real conversation that people need to have, in that women are going to need more funds for retirement and just like surviving
Right.
after retirement. And then also long-term care planning. If your spouse partner is no longer there, who is going to take care of you if you have a health crisis or situation in which you cannot care for yourself? Do you have the funds available to live, to survive? And I think these are really important conversations to be having, especially given the COVID crisis. And you know, are your affairs in order? We're not talking about estate planning today, but estate planning is super important. Do you have a will? Who's going to take care of your kids if something happens to you and you have small children? Who gets your assets if something happens to you? Do you have a business? Is that in your will? These are all things that need to be discussions that should be happening. And I think especially right now, I think it's of utmost importance, because we don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't know what this afternoon brings. So if we're being really honest. Um, Talking about protecting your assets. So that's the field I'm in now as an insurance agent. And so you've worked really hard, you've acquired real estate, you've acquired vehicles, you have savings. So you need to be protecting those things. And of course, insurance policies do that. So, and I would say you are going to grow your insurance policies as your assets grow. So you're probably going to have more insurance as your financial portfolio gets bigger because you have more to protect at that point. But insurance is something that is an ongoing discussion. You should have a local agent, like myself, that you can call and ask questions of, that will sit down with you and review policies, because again, as your assets grow, your policy needs are going to change, but also as your life changes, your policy needs are going to change. Do you have children now? um, are your children grown and not in the home anymore? How does that affect your insurance and your policies and your rates? Um, Also, life insurance. Do you have life insurance? And is your spouse going to be okay if something happens to you tomorrow, if you're the breadwinner of the home? Will they be able to pay the bills? Do they need to pay off the mortgage when that happens because you have small children? And so they may not be able to go back to work right away. All really hard questions in some cases for people to discuss, but really important ones too. Um, there's nothing worse than something happening and knowing that you haven't prepared, or that
Right.
you don't have the protection in place for the people that you absolutely cherish and love. These are the people that are most important to you. So just having those protections in place and having an advocate that you can call and ask these questions, that will be really honest with you, that isn't just trying to sell you a product. There's lots of products out there, but you need to call somebody who's going to say, hey, this is really good. This is a good idea. This is not a good idea. Don't waste your money here. Um, Health insurance. That's huge right now, right? A lot of people are losing their health insurance because they have been laid off from their jobs. So, what are some ways that you can circumvent that? Do you need a telemedicine plan where you can make a phone call and get see a doctor virtually now? And that's very reasonably priced to do that. So, do you need those types of options right now? There's a lot to think about, which is why I say I think it's really important. I was listening to a YouTube show last night, and an author, Brandon Clay. It was an insurance industry YouTube show. And an author, Brandon Clay, was talking about hiring advocates. And I just so took that away. Like,
Mm. That's
that is the
great.
people,
Hiring
right?
advocates. Yeah,
You
that's
should
great.
hire advocates. Your CPA should be an advocate for you. Um, if you go to SCORE because you want to start a business, that person should be an advocate for you. Your attorney should be an advocate for you. These should be people that you trust, you have a relationship with, you can call when you need professional advice, and you trust. Like, we work hard for our money. We should not just be spending it willy nilly and on people that don't care, um, but to get a buck. That's not who you want to hire. You want to hire somebody that actually cares about your situation and will help you actually achieve not just your financial goals, but your life goals.
So thank you, Lisa, weighing in. Estate planning at any age is important, and especially for families with young children. We've got about 5 minutes left in this talk today. Kelly, again, you're correct. That book is Overcoming Under Earning by Barbara Stanny. Jessica, what are your thoughts on life insurance? I have term life insurance as a 40-year-old, but have been told by some insurance agents that if you have other coverages, it's not necessarily needed, or there are a lot of loopholes. It seems there are several types of life insurance. I know my husband and myself, we both have life insurance policies. Obviously, we have older parents, so that's super critical. Jessica, go ahead and hop on that one.
Yeah, there's lots of different life insurance policies. Term, as you mentioned, there's whole life policies. There's whole life policies that have long-term care built into them now. There's annuities are really popular too as an income, a way of income as you get older, or an ongoing way of income. So there are a lot of life insurance opportunities and policies that exist, and this is where I would say, I hate to say this, but you need to talk to somebody who knows your situation or who you can share your situation with, and they can direct you to the policy that's best for your circumstance, because there
I
are lots out there.
I do want to bring this up, Jessica. We did want to talk to employers who are considering how to have good benefits for their employees.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss that because that was on our talk point. And then we're going to have a resource guide from this talk that Jessica will be sharing on her professional Facebook page, which is SAB Insurance Maven. We'll also take that info and we'll put it up on my website, miatalks.com, so that you have it. But we'll have, again, resources that we've covered in this talk in case you're like, okay, I want to just go back and see places to look for, or books or people to talk to. Talk to me about carrying insurance for your employees, but also not breaking the bank, because that can be one of the most expensive costs to do for your business.
Yes. So I think this is a really important conversation, especially right now when you're trying to retain employees, but you're maybe having to consider layoffs or maybe cutting back hours or cutting back pay. There are ways that you can offer group benefits, accident plans, disability plans, cancer plans, as an employer, in which your employees pay for those coverages, or you can offer as the employer to pay for those coverages. And so I think that's a really great way to retain employees, is to offer some of those benefits to them. It makes them more committed as an employee, and you are extending a hand and caring. I think that's really important. Again, right now in our current environment, that we have a little empathy and care for the people who are helping us through this and helping our businesses through this situation. Um, Cancer, especially, I mean, cancer has touched my family in a huge way. My father died of cancer. My mother-in-law died of cancer. My husband's health scare was cancer. So my uncle died at 49 from glioblastoma brain cancer. We have had so much cancer in our lives as a couple. So a cancer plan to me is a no-brainer, something everyone should have. 1 in 2 men are going to have cancer in their lifetime. 1 in 3 women are going to have cancer in their lifetime. Those are real statistics. So having a cancer plan does not cost a lot of money, and can help lift you up financially during a really hard time if you need to be. If you lose your income or you're not able to work because you're a caregiver. That's, a real reality for a lot of people who are dealing with family members that have major health crises. So I think that there's, insurance can be overwhelming because there's so much out there, and I don't want to overwhelm anyone. But these are the conversations that should be having with a good agent, about what your needs are. And then as your needs change, adjusting where needed.
Well, and Jessica, I'm really glad that you brought up the cancer plan. I know that Affleck does a great job at the cancer plans. I've heard nothing but great things. Also, just when it comes to medical expenses, FSAs, I know if Susan McGahee is out here watching this, she's going to be like, Mia, I put you on that FSA, because having that, honestly, I mean, I've had to do a lot of doctor's visits, and it's just basically allowed me to kind of have money in the bank as I've had to maneuver those visits. I can't say thank you enough. It is 4:44, and for everyone that has tuned in, thank you for your input. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. Miriam saying here, I have term and whole life policies as a 41-year-old. I'm single mother of 3 with 1 still at home. I do have 2 of them as riders on my policy due to their age, and her dad as well was lost to bone cancer in his 60s. I do want to honor just the weight that is upon women in so many areas as leaders, as women and moms, and as wives, and as caretakers to others. And we sit in this space because it's like, I'm a woman, I can do this. But it's also really nice to know that we can all hop on this conversation this evening and just have tools to support each other. So as we wrap it up, every resource, we didn't even get to go over the resource sheet. We started with overcoming under earning, but there's a great book called Profit First that you can use when it comes to your business financial goals. We are going to post those at SAV Insurance Maven. I will also get a copy of those posted up at miatalks.com. And we will be back next week, where we hang out with really cool, brilliant, smart, amazing women dedicated to making your life successful. So thank y'all. Thank you. Rebecca said Health Spinning Account is so helpful. Thank you to everyone for joining the conversation on social media. Jessica, stand by.
Thank you.
Thank you.